Wow, this has been such a lovely morning. So here I go. This is my question that I'm very passionate about. I'm excited to speak about this morning. So when we talk about ECE as being important to kickstart the economy, that is only one lens in which to view childcare. And when we only hear stories about kickstarting the economy, I fear that we're devaluing early learning communities, and the importance of early learning education is becoming lost in that narrative. A place to learn, play, grow, to be cared for is turning into, this is a place for children to go so families can go out and contribute. And I'm not okay with that. Here in Alberta, the message of economy is very disconnected. And we know that childcare contributes to our province's economic model. That's not unknown information. For every dollar that's invested in childcare, there's a $2 return to the economy. It's impossible not to view childcare as a way to kickstart, but that's not the only thing to think about here. And in Alberta, childcare cost for families is a major barrier. So this is where the disconnect is coming from. It can cost upwards of $1,200 a month for one child to attend a childcare program here. And that makes it very challenging for families to return to the workplace when that is what they need to pay for someone to take care of their child, and not just take care of their child, for a place where they can drop them off, as Sanjay was saying, and feel comfortable and happy and secure when they go into work, so that they can do a better job when they're at work, because they know their child is being well taken care of and having quality early learning experiences. So I get very passionate about this. If the story we tell is one of economic importance, then we need to tell the whole story. And a major part of that story, or the story, is that families are not having access to quality, affordable childcare. And that is what is going to support our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And we now go to Christina from New Brunswick.
That was awesome, Brittany. I really just want to echo that it's a small lens that people are looking through when saying, yes, it's a kickstart to the economy. We know that. We do know that. And the point is, coming from a rural community, yes, absolutely it is. Like I said, we have 600 people in our village, and our daycare holds only 60, and we are full to capacity because all of these families are returning to work. But what does that mean for us? Because we are part of that economy, you know, like we're there providing this service, this job, and it needs to be valued that, you know, no, it's not just so you can go do the more important work and we'll just be over here doing this, but that, you know, we're creating the future here, so to speak. And the fact that, you know, financially we're not compensated nearly enough for what it is that we do, and the vulnerable position we're putting ourselves in when we have families at home, you know, coming and being open and remaining open so that families can go out to work. You know, I just feel like there is a huge disconnect there on what does that actually mean. And like you said, passion doesn't pay the bills, but if you're in this field, it's usually for the passion of it, not for the paycheck. But it would be nice to kind of see those come up to par. You know, the passion is here, the paycheck is here. And if we're talking about balancing the economy a little bit, let's bring them together, if that makes sense at all.
It does. Thank you. And Janice, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I'm going to be echoing a lot of everyone's thoughts so far. And when I first saw this question, I agree, obviously, 100%, but it shouldn't be a new concept. I mean, I think we know that these early years are the most formative years, and we know how important our job is. And I think that for the media to be saying only now and framing us now as kickstarting the economy, I mean, we've always been such a big part of the economy. And there's a lot of frustrations, and I know that we've been expressing a lot of frustrations from our field, and that shouldn't be taking away from our passion, right, and what we do and how much work we put into and how much love we put into what we do. But the fact that as professionals, that we have to even have this discussion, where a lot of the times I feel educators in our field, we kind of almost have to choose sometimes between, okay, this is what we love to do, but is it sustainable for ourselves? And we're seeing that a lot during the pandemic, where it's almost like, it's not to say that you have to choose between your job and living, but it's becoming more and more apparent, especially during this pandemic. I mean, before the pandemic started, and even now, I know so many ECEs who work 2 or 3 jobs. I myself I'm working full-time, and I'd be doing 8 hours a day, and then at night I would be doing a couple shifts at a restaurant, doing another 6-7 hours, and then going to bed for maybe 5 hours, and then getting up and then doing the job again. And it's exhausting, and it takes away from what we're able to offer the children during the day. But it's living in Vancouver, you kind of have to, just to make ends meet. And everything, I think, is being compounded now with the pandemic. We're seeing it's always been an issue, but it's even more of an issue now with the lack of subs, the lack of quality subs. How a lot of people in our profession have had to leave the field because they find a job that pays better. And it's not necessarily because they love that other job better, but it's what pays the bills. And it's frustrating because we shouldn't have to choose our job based on that, or solely based on that. And it's even just the quality of care, I find. It's like you said, it's not universal. Just from one center to another, it varies so much. And I think it's hard for parents to be able to feel like their children are in a safe environment or in a safe place when it does vary so much from center to center, and you don't really know exactly what kind of care you're getting, because depending on whether it's, a licensed childcare or unlicensed group care, you really don't know what to expect or what you're going to get. So I think there's a huge disconnect with how we're being framed in media, and how we're valued and how we're compensated, and there needs to be a change. And I know there has been changes, but there needs to be more.
Thank you. So there is the discourse of the economy, but there's also all those other things we're bringing in that should be heard also. And Daniel.
So my baby brother and his wife, they recently just finished their mat leave with their first child and had to find childcare in Edmonton, because at first they thought, oh, the pandemic's on, we're going to be able to do this. I'll work in the morning, you'll work in the evening, and we'll split the care. And as I'm sure all of you can imagine, that just worked not at all. Because toddlers in the background of Zoom meetings for work make it very clear to all of us that that even if childcare doesn't affect you directly, it's affecting you indirectly. That everyone needs childcare because everyone needs work, and I think that's sort of what is driving the media's focus on childcare and the economy, is because it's never become so real for so many people. And so part of me is like, all right, we're finally getting attention, maybe not for all the right reasons, but we're getting attention. The questions I'm still left with in this, though, is when we focus on such a narrow band of what childcare is for, I wonder about, what about workers' rights? What about women's rights? What about a child's right to early childhood education? When we continue to frame early childhood care and education only through the lens of the economy, we forget that, like Janice and me are working 2 jobs. You know, we forget that a lot of our ECEs are struggling to make ends meet. We forget that parents are paying thousands of dollars to get into childcares, and because they're so desperate, they take the first spot that they can find because there's not enough centers out there. We we forget that this pandemic has affected women more than anyone else. Women's jobs were the jobs that most evaporated, and because of gender role expectations that still exist in our society, women were often the ones that were expected to stay home and take care of the children. I read somewhere in a paper recently, and it was just staggering how many families had to make that choice, and it was the mom that had to stay home. And so I think when we just frame it through the economy and not through children's rights and women's rights and workers' rights, we miss a big part of why we're so important. You know, it's the schools all closed across this country because they were thinking about children's rights and protecting children and protecting families. And they thought, oh, we can pause education briefly and then jump back into it. But for those of us who are in childcare, we're being told, oh, no, you can't work because, or you can't quit because then nurses can't go to work and then other people can't go to work. And it really, that disconnect of schools closing and us staying open really drove to me how our rights are seen differently and our jobs are seen differently. I see education and care as being intimately tied together. You're always doing both. And I think society is really going, oh, well, school is care and ECE is, or sorry, school is education and ECE is care. And they're missing that we are all doing both, you know?